interested in is the answer to these oversight questions.
You want your
you were asked by my colleague. You were asked by my colleague
attacking good people.
Regular order, Madam Chair, so I can ask a question. You were asked by my colleague from Vermont whether you will support providing a video or audio tape, if it exists, of Mr. Holman taking $50,000 in bribe money from the FBI. Will you support a request by this committee to provide that tape or tapes to the committee? Yes or no?
Senator Schiff, you can talk to Director Patel about that.
Well, I'm talking to you about it. You're the Attorney General. This will be your decision. Will you support?
You don't have to tell me what is my decision and what is not my decision. I said you can talk to Director Patel.
You don't have to try to.
You think you've got a gotcha with Tom Homan, our border czar, who's been out there fighting for our country since Donald Trump took office.
I'm trying to ask a question. Regular order, please.
Adam Schiff just did what no one else in Congress has had the courage to do. He read aloud, one by one, every major scandal, every buried investigation, and every unanswered question Pam Bondi has avoided for years. From a mysterious $50,000 bribe, to shielding Donald Trump in the Epstein files, to allegedly clearing Hegseth's illegal boat strikes, Schiff laid out a pattern of corruption so blatant it should alarm every American. And today, when confronted with the truth, she ran from all of it.
And you don't have to defer to the FBI director to pass the buck. So I'm asking you. Will you support a request so that the committee, or indeed I believe the American people, should be able to see that video or audio tape? Will you support that request?
Will you apologize to Donald Trump for trying to impeach him?
I guess the answer is you won't support that request.
After you now know that Joe Biden tried to cover up Hunter Biden's involvement with Ukraine.
Let me do this, because I think it's valuable that the American people get a sense of what you've refused to answer today. So these are just some of the questions you refused to answer, or have answered with personal attacks on members of this committee. You were asked whether you consulted with career ethics lawyers, as you promised you would do during your nomination hearing, when you approved the president receiving a $400 million gift from the Qataris. You refused to answer that question. You were asked who or what role you may have played, or who played the role in asking that Trump's name be flagged in any of the Epstein documents gathered by the FBI. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether Holman kept the $50,000 bribe money. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether Holman paid taxes on the $50,000 bribe money. You refused to answer that question. You were asked, did career prosecutors find insufficient evidence to charge James Comey? You refused to answer that question. You were asked, how are military strikes on these boats in the Caribbean legal? And you refused to even answer that question.
You were asked, law degree,
excuse me. You were asked, did you discuss indicting James Comey with the president? You refused to answer that question. You were asked, did you approve the firing of antitrust lawyers who disagreed with the Hewlett-Packard merger? You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether you support a restoration fund for violent insurrections to attack the Capitol on January 6th. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether you were firing career professionals, career prosecutors, just because they worked on January 6th investigations. You refused to answer that question. You were asked by my California colleague whether you believe government officials, like immigration officials, have to abide by court orders. You wouldn't even answer that question. This is supposed to be an oversight hearing.
Oversight?
Excuse me, you can attack me after my time is over.
You've attacked all of us, including President Trump, for your entire career.
You can attack me later, and I know you've got plenty of canned attacks. We've heard them all day to day.
Canned attacks on you?
This is supposed to be...
No one needs a canned attack on you.
Regular order, Madam Chair. I'm trying to speak. This is supposed to be an oversight hearing of the Justice Department. And it comes in the wake of an indictment called for by the president of one of his enemies. This is supposed to be an oversight hearing, and it comes in the wake of revelations that a top administration official took $50,000 in a bag, and this department made that investigation go away. This is supposed to be an oversight hearing when dozens of prosecutors have been fired simply because they worked on cases investigating the former president. This is, and now the current president.
What about the fires in California?
And
do you care about that, Senator Schiff?
This is supposed to be an oversight hearing in which members of Congress can get serious answers to serious questions about
are the riots in LA serious?
About the cover-up of corruption, about the prosecution of the president's enemies. And
I think you owe the president an apology.
When will it be
your entire career, frankly,
that the members of this committee on a bipartisan basis demand answers to those questions and refuse to accept
clearly you're
personal,
a failed lawyer
refuse
because
to accept,
you don't understand when someone can and cannot answer a question.
Refuse to accept personal slander as an answer to those questions.
Personal slander?
With
Will
that,
you apologize
Madam Chair,
to Donald
I yield
Trump for
back.
slandering him? Personal slander.
Senator.
May I ask unanimous consent, Madam Chair, to introduce into the record the statement of 1,000 former Justice Department officials who warned that the Comey indictment is a democracy-threatening abuse of power. May I also request unanimous consent for the introduction to the record of 282 former career officials at the Justice Department raising the alarm who were voluntarily or involuntarily forced to leave the department because of improper actions taken by the Department of Justice. May I introduce, with unanimous consent, the Justice Department manual that talks about when initiating and declining charges are subject to impermissible considerations. And finally, Madam Chair, may I introduce the letter from Michael Ben-Ari, a career counterterrorism prosecutor, DOJ, a letter he nailed to his door, which concludes by urging officials to do the right thing for the right reasons, to follow the facts and the law, and raises the alarm that the decision to remove experienced career officials from U.S. attorneys' offices, the FBI, and critical parts of DOJ undermines our country's abilities to counter terrorist organizations, malign nation-state actors, and countless others that seek to harm our nation and its citizens. And he believes that the priority is prosecuting the president's enemies
or are you admitting
rather than protecting the country.
1 moment.
May I have unanimous consent to enter these into the record?
Without objection.
Thank you. I yield back.
Senator.
What Adam Schiff did in this hearing went far beyond a routine oversight exchange. This was a rare moment when Congress functioned exactly as the Constitution intended, acting as a check on power and a voice for the public when officials refuse accountability. Schiff didn't raise his voice, interrupt, or grandstand. Instead, he relied on something far more devastating: the record, the questions, the facts, and the silence that followed each time Pam Bondi declined to respond. That silence told its own story, because Schiff wasn't asking about hypotheticals or political spin. He pressed on serious concerns involving past investigations, foreign influence issues, the handling of sensitive documents, personnel removals, legal procedures, and fundamental standards every government official is expected to follow. In any fully transparent justice system, these questions would be answered clearly and without hesitation, yet Bondi repeatedly avoided them or shifted into personal attacks, behavior that highlighted the very accountability gap Schiff sought to expose. His approach documented that breakdown in real time, and he wasn't speaking only to Bondi. He was speaking to the American people, who deserve answers about why inquiries stall, why officials are dismissed, why allegations vanish, and why major decisions with national consequences are sometimes made without full public explanation. Schiff's message in this moment matters because he is outlining a troubling pattern, one where political loyalty appears to overshadow legal obligation, where officials who raise concerns are removed, where those close to power seem insulated while investigators face pressure, and where the law risks becoming a flexible tool rather than a firm standard. He is warning the country that this is not normal, not sustainable, and not something a democracy can survive if it continues. His closing point: one, Bondi tried to interrupt, cut to the core. Congress cannot conduct oversight if those being questioned refuse to cooperate, and if that becomes acceptable, the entire system of checks and balances collapses. This hearing wasn't about theatrics. It was about whether the rule of law still functions, whether an attorney general can be held accountable, whether serious allegations can be examined, and whether the public has the right to know if their government is operating within constitutional limits. Schiff emphasized that accountability, transparency, and adherence to the law are not optional, and if the Justice Department drifts from those principles, it falls to Congress, and ultimately the public, to demand better. If you care about protecting democratic institutions, stay informed, support credible journalism, and remain engaged, because corruption thrives when people look away and oversight only works when citizens insist on it. Your attention matters, and moments like this show why. If you're new here, subscribe, stay involved, and help ensure these conversations continue. Democracy depends on it.